Welcome to Blinkers Off with your hosts, Jared Welch and Aaron Halterman.
What is up? What is up? I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. It is Thursday, September 12th, and this is Blinkers Off. What's up, dude?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, show number 2 for me today. Still no microphone working, but that's super frustrating. But we're still here and we're still doing shows, so that's good.
Yeah, we're doing some kind of testing before we hopped on here, but we'll get it figured out for you. Okay, you are the voice of the racing dude, so we've got to get your very expensive mic working properly.
I'm so confused as to why it's not, but anyway, we're here. So
I mean, you're on so much that maybe you've literally worn it out already. I don't know.
Yeah,
It sounds like honestly, it sounds like a browser issue. So I think we'll figure it out for you.
I think we will. Yeah.
But yeah, we are here. It is officially in the combo of Derby / Breeders' Cup season. That's right. We are preparing for the 2025. Obviously, last week a little bit with the Futurity, but now it's official. We have points on the line for the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Oaks at where else? Churchill Downs. But we also have Breeders' Cup races at Woodbine. So it's that time of the year. We mentioned it last week where you're really, a month-ish out, really, less than a month at this point, where of Breeders' Cup races. So this week is kind of the first of that big stretch here.
It's crazy. It's crazy that we're into the Kentucky Derby prep races that we'll talk about this weekend. That's just like weird to say, but that's where we're at. And yeah, I mean, the Breeders' Cup is such a strange like lead up to it now, right? Because used to everybody would run these last few weeks, and now a lot of the way they space horses out, a lot of them they're done. Like Fierceness, Dornoch, Sierra Leone, they're not running again. So it is kind of weird to see, okay, who rested versus who kind of ran in these last 4 or 5 weeks, and kind of they all come together, and you got to kind of figure that puzzle out. But it's exciting. I think the races. It's fantastic this weekend. We kind of talked off air. It's like that. Those races at Woodbine are great. Churchill's got a really good card as well. You got Belmont at the Big A back, so not racing in New York back as well. So it's a great weekend.
I mean, you got like just kind of looking over obviously Woodbine, but you have some overseas action as well. This weekend, but you also then you jump next week. You get the Princess Rooney, which is whatever. But after that, you got like the Vosburg, you got the Ack, you've got the City of Hope, at San Diego, the California Crown, which is now a classic race. So you've got that. And then you get into October, and as you know, like that last weekend of October is huge, where you've got all these big time races as we head into there, like the Ogden Phoenix, and you've got the Futurity, you've got the Coolmore Turf Mile. Obviously Keeneland in the fall is hard to beat that. So really kind of that the American Pharoah, right, for the juvenile. So all these big last ditch efforts, are kind of like clearing up the air a little bit with who's going where, kind of like you mentioned. So yeah, this is it. I mean, and again, this weekend you've got a bunch of Appleby horses coming in at Woodbine. So those look to be legit races as well, as it relates to, the implications it could mean towards the Kentucky or towards the Breeders' Cup. But talking about the Breeders' Cup, let's talk real quickly about last weekend. And that is, of course, the highlight of the weekend, in my opinion, was Cogburn, right? And this dude is just on another planet this year. He really is. And obviously came to Kentucky Downs. I think visually was one of his probably, I know he had set the world record earlier this year, but it's like that was visually just such a dominant effort at Kentucky Downs. And then, now they're going right to the Breeders' Cup. And I wanted to see what, I know it's hard to like be any higher on him, but that race to me at Kentucky Downs, because I think you go into that, you're like, how's Kentucky Downs going to, hurt him here? You know what I mean? Like, is it going to get to it? And it's like, no, he's just so dominant.
It was amazing. And to see that happen on a track, like you said, that he did lose over last year, but we kind of highlighted it, may not be because he hated the track, maybe because he got hurt in the race, because we didn't see him forever after that. But just to kind of see him go over there and dominate and do what, a lot of horses that are heavy favorites don't do at Kentucky Downs. And he just kind of showed he doesn't need a certain type of track or this or that. He's just a runner, and it looked like he was running through the weeds. I mean, I that's the best way I could explain it. I mean, I was at the OU game, so I was watching on my phone, and I was like, this rail looks like weeds. Like, have they mowed this place? But
I
still,
know.
he was just running through those and just cutting through, no problem. So he looks great. You never know who's coming over internationally. And, the turf sprinters usually aren't quite as strong, but they do every once in a while send some good ones over. And you never know, but I don't think there's a horse in this country that can beat him. And he's certainly the favorite in my eyes for the turf sprint, but it just, he's just a racehorse, man. To me, like, I'd rather see him than anybody else right now. I know it's not the glamour division, but he's must see when he runs. That was just and again, he's kind of developed this I'm just going to go out and kill him type attitude this year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You look at last year, it's like he kind of set off of him. This year, it's just like, no, go to the front, kill him. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, when he turned for home and at Kentucky Downs, I thought it kind of was like we were talking about it. I was like ready to text you. It was like, this track, I hate this because it's like there's no way he can lose from here. The way he's running, we've seen this before, and obviously he just he continued on. But man, like, just a powerful performance. And I was thinking about it, and I think it's hard. It'll be hard to do. But is there any world? So if he were to, where I'm at, getting ready to ask. Yeah. So he's about to run. He's got one race left, and that's going to be in the Breeders' Cup. He wins that. Let's just assume he's won 2 grade 1s in the year. The other 2 were grade 2s, all completely dominant. He's won 1.7 million so far this year. Where he'd obviously would add another, million to that. Let's say, so he'd be 4 for 4. Let's say 2.5 million in earnings. Is there a case that you can make for him for Horse of the Year?
No, they won't vote for a turf sprinter. And that's just, I actually did a video on it. I think it'll come out today, actually, on Horse of the Year. And I basically said the main contenders would just have to flop something huge. They just won't, they're not going to vote for a turf sprinter.
No.
It's just that simple, and at the end of the day, these things are voted on by humans, and they favor the glamour divisions, which is long on the dirt, right? So that's just kind of how it's going to be. I imagine for him, I think he is the most talented. And I said this in the video. I think he is the most talented runner right now. Again, he is a specialist in an area that just doesn't get a lot of respect from the people that are voting. So he certainly is deserving of it, but I just don't think they'll do that. No.
Yeah, it's one of those weird cases where it's like, he's the best. Like, he's just the most dominant horse, really. But like, even a sprinter, like a 6 furlong, 7 furlong sprint, like, say you won, like you talk about like a Jackie's Warrior or one of those type of horses like Mitoli, like those just don't. And then now you're talking about a level of that level, like on the turf. It's too hard to do. And on top of that, it's like, maybe you could make a case if the horse was ran like 8 times, 4 grade 1s, this insane, the same schedule that he just, but only 4 races. It's too light on top of that. But it's just one of I wanted to bring it up because it is, I just feel like it's one of those cases like, damn, he is the best horse, I think, but just like if everything, in a vacuum, but there's too many factors that go into it.
Yeah, and I think Horse of the Year runs through fierceness. If he wins the Classic, he's going to be the Horse of the Year, right? So he would have to lose, and then if he was to lose, then Horse of the Year probably runs through Torpedo Anna. So she would have to lose somewhere along the way, and then maybe if those 2 things happen, and the winners of their respective races are just nuts, maybe he can get his name in that ring, so to speak, right? But I still, at the end of the day, again, these are voted on by, horse racing writers and such. And that's just not a division that they are going to ever really reward.
No, unfortunately, no. But listen, he is dominant, and it would be cool to see him at least in the top 3. He may not get a lot of votes, but he's probably deserving of that. He's obviously going to win many awards on his own, or his deserving awards.
Mm-hmm.
But he is that horse. Like, he is him, as they say. He's
right.
him.
Yeah.
Have you heard, like, are they, because how old is he? Is he 4 or 5?
He's 5 now.
5, yeah. So is he done for this year? Do you know?
Yep. Yeah,
figured
the
you know,
stallion deals in. Yeah.
gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Well, he's not, hey, by the way, not this time, right?
Well, and here's the
Does it
deal.
all.
Just I don't know. Just quick on him. He, it's crazy to say, dude, but okay, yeah, he's a turf sprinter. He's really not bred to be. His offspring might be fine going longer. Like you don't look at his breeding and go, well, that's turf sprint all the way. So like his bloodlines may produce more of longer range horses. So I think he's a very kind of sneaky sire once he gets there.
Well, he's a horse too that, I mean, he didn't start on the turf either,
Oh.
so obviously they thought the same thing.
I think they thought Kentucky Derby type prospects after he broke his maiden, and again they ran him on the dirt, and then it was late, and they put him on the turf, and obviously it worked out quite well.
Yeah, he lost to Count Fleet.
Yep.
Finished 7th, got well beaten, had finished 8th in the Whitmore the race before that, so they switched him over. And then really never looked back. There was one race there at Kentucky Downs that was his kind of the bad one, right? But since then, he's literally been 100% on the turf. So it is, and it's funny that we'll be talking about the Iroquois here in a little bit, which is a prep race for the Kentucky Derby. And guess what? We got a bunch of not this times in there as well. So it's just what a sire. Like kind of like the Justify, like where he can, it just does, you don't know, like whatever he throws, like there's gonna be all kinds of different, variety of horses in there. So, and for a horse that didn't, had the hype obviously and was built to be a good horse, but obviously had issues on the track, like it's awesome to see him just dominating as a stud.
Oh, for sure. And now, don't get me wrong, I would probably go to Justify first. But when you look at the money difference between breeding to Justify versus Not This Time, not that either one of them's cheap, but Not This Time is cheaper, I certainly would go to Not That. He would be number one on my list. I guess that's what I'm trying to say when you think of that. He's not overly expensive, and look what he's done. And again, you may get anything. You may get a turf sprint world record holder, or you may get a freaking marathon winner in next, So,
yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Between.
That's insane.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of great sires, let's
Yes.
yes. We got a good friend of the show here that is patiently waiting. He's listen, don't call it a comeback, folks. Don't call it a comeback. This guy, you know him, you love him. Saratoga Slim is back. And I'm gonna let him kind of bring it in. But what are you doing back, dude? I thought you were retired.
I'll tell you one thing about Not This Time. In the 2016 Breeders' Cup, one of my best bets, Classic Empire, Not This Time, exacta box. I knocked it out the park. I got the past performances up for $1, paid $19.70. I think I had it for $20. That was a great bet that day. So you guys got me all pumped up about the Kentucky Derby, and I got a horse for you, Chancer McPatrick. I saw him win the Hopeful up here in Saratoga, so I'm excited about him. Any Chad Brown horse, I got a back with both fists. Go to the betting window. So Dad Rat Baby is back. Saratoga Slim, I've become another person because, not being Saratoga Slim and Barack Capper was enough. I've also started rapping as Dad Rap, and I'm rapping about fantasy football. One of my favorite things. I started rapping in 1991, and I also started playing fantasy football in 1991. Back then, I used to have a pencil and a pad, and I would watch the games and write down my notes. But anyway, why I'm here is because I am introducing a new show to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel. It is called the Friday Football Freakout, and the first episode is tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. So I'm hoping some of y'all out there want to hear us talk about football. My first guest on the show is going to be Jared Welch, another great sire.
Right.
And I haven't even told Jared what the show is about, so I'll tell you what the show is about. He's going to be able to guess. I've been telling him for like 3 days I'm going to send him an agenda. But we're going to start off and talk about the news of the day, who's injured, who's questionable, who's out, who's probable, what you could do with your starting sit lineup decisions for your fantasy team, maybe how that helps you or not, and also talk about how to affect some of the daily fantasy lineups that you might be doing on DraftKings. It's going to be really a focus on fantasy football, talking about football. We're going to talk about the game of the day, game of the weekend is going to be the Bucks at Lions. We're going to do a deep dive on. I'm also going to let Jared probably talk about the Chiefs at some point during this situation. I like Isaiah Pacheco this week. He's going to have a huge week. He's my start of the week. I know he's a stud and he's a top, 20 pick or top 15 picks. I'm not giving out any sleepers here, but I think he's going to have a huge week. So we're going to talk about the Chiefs. We're going to talk about, take your comments, take your start sit questions. We're going to have a good time. So grab a beer Friday night at 10. Hey man, I'm 45 years old. I got 2 kids. I'm not going out to 2:00 in the morning anymore. So the only way I get to hang out with people and talk about football is by having this show. So that's really the premise of the show, is just to hang out, talk about football, figure out what's going on this weekend. You might be working on Friday and might not be able to see who's questionable or not and all that. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to rap on the show. We'll end the show.
Did not know that.
All right.
So we're going to be rapping. I'm going to be playing my beats in the background. It's going to be like a hyped up rap type beat show.
Ooh.
And
baby.
and we're also going to introduce something. It's called That Dad Life Lounge, where we're going to have one question a week about, if I have a dad on the show, we're going to have a guest each week. And if we have a dad on the show, we're going to have a dad question, because I am dad rap. And the question this week, I won't, no spoiler alerts, but I'll send the question to Jared so he'll have a thing. So it's going to be like a variety show. We're going to have musical guests.
Oh my God.
I haven't even told you this yet. I'm thinking about getting some musical guests. I've met a lot of people on Instagram since I started rapping, rappers, drummers, all different things. So it's not just going to be straight fantasy football. We're also going to have some variety to it, talk about other stuff, have some musical guests. So the sky's the limit. If you guys have any ideas, anything you want me to do, we need dad jokes too. Someone just wrote, okay, Ron, dad jokes. I'm not a big dad joke guy, but maybe we'll do
I got some good dad jokes.
How
Anything?
long is this show going to last? Because
I know that's the thing, right?
Stuff.
I got to keep it under an hour, 45 minutes, probably half an hour to 45 minutes. So I got too many things planned. I might have to trim some of that stuff out, but I do want to just make it an atmosphere where people just hang out and talk about football. So that's the idea. Thank you so much for, having me back. I'm not going to retire this time. I promise you this. I'm going to make it through the whole football season.
Well, I think again, you hadn't laid out much to me other than you want to do a Friday freak out. I knew about that, but it's like that sounds like a hell of a show to me. I mean, I'm looking forward to it.
If nothing else, just join us to see what happens, right?
Yeah.
That's it. So join us to see what happens, because who knows what's going to happen tomorrow night, Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern. I'll let you guys get back to the Kentucky Derby and Breeders' Cup picks. Are you guys going to Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup is the main question.
I would say.
Yeah, we'll be there, man.
Yeah. You coming?
Are you coming?
God. Is Ryan meeting you there?
Yep.
Ryan's
coming.
going.
God,
Yep.
I'm going to have crazy FOMO.
Last time we had some great times at Del Mar together.
Yes.
7 years ago, we went to the Breeders' Cup, and I had one of the craziest trips of my life. That's where kind of all this started. Was Ryan Stillman took the camera and turned it on me while I was interviewing the horses, and that just sprung out all these crazy ideas from there. That was a huge moment in my career. So, and I won an award. I won an award for handicapping. So, I'm not just a schmuck off the street. I'm not going to say I'm a football expert. I've been playing for 33 years fantasy football, so I know a little bit about it. And anyway, we'll talk more on that tomorrow night about it.
I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Very serious. You are a seasoned expert. Should I start Achane tonight?
Oof. I'm worried. I'm worried about that. I mean, I hate when a guy's injured. He's not going to get a full workload. No way. So
those Thursday night games are weird, and you just never know.
I know. I mean, he's a stud. He could he could obviously break a 75-yard touchdown. You feel dumb about it. So that's the thing. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see right before the game if he's a game time decision. And they got good running backs behind them. They got that Jalen Wright and they got Jeff Wilson's been around for 20 years. So, they might just give him the night off and give him that extra time to get ready for week 3. But we'll see. I don't know. Jalen Wright props tonight. That's a good one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the prop lines are on him, but we'll see. You'll bet Jalen Wright, and then they'll give Jeff Wilson 20 carries, but we'll see.
Yeah,
it's be interesting. But yeah, I mean, if you want to lock in Jalen Wright now, and you really feel like Achan's not going to play and Jalen Wright's going to get some workload, then this is the time to do it, because I'm sure Vegas is going to move the line immediately if Achan's inactive.
I don't care. I mean, obviously, I'd love to have him healthy, but if he's because I got Dobbins on the bench and like he had a good week 1, right? So it's like my issue is like it pisses me off when a team says, "Oh, he's active," and then he plays like four snaps. It's like, really? I mean, I could just set him, because it's not like he's like the running back 40. I mean, he's like a top 5, top 10 running back. So if he's active, it's like, how do you not play him?
I feel like Dobbins is a much better bet this week. He's going to get the workload, and he has a good matchup this week. Dobbins is playing at the Carolina Panthers, and they are probably the crappiest team in no cursing. Dad Rap doesn't curse, by the way. He is one of the crappiest. The Carolina Panthers have to be the worst team. I mean, they're horrible, and they just lost one of the defensive ends, the best defensive end for the year. So I feel like Dobbins is a really safe bet this week. He's going to get the ball, and if he has one of those breakout runs like he had last week, you're going to get your points.
Plus, Dobbins feels like a guy you got to use early in the season before he gets hurt. So, because he's not being able to stay healthy. But we'll talk about like this kind of stuff and much, much more tomorrow night at what time?
10 p.m. Eastern. All right, guys. So after you put this is kind of for like, the people in their 30s and 40s. I'm not trying to go for a 20-year-old demographic. Sorry, guys, if you are. But maybe you're around on a Friday night. If you're going out to the bars on a Friday night, you got something much more better than sitting in front of your computer screen or your phone looking at what we're talking about. But if you want to talk about football and get your lineup set, come to the Friday Football Freakout, 10 p.m. Eastern on the Race and Dudes YouTube channel and all your other Race and Dudes channels. So thanks for having me on the show, guys. Enjoy.
All right. See you, dude. All right. Well, there you go. I like you guys. I'm a guest on the show. I have no idea what I'm in for. So I'm excited to do it, though.
That sounded like a lot of fun. Like there was a lot that was going to happen. Again, I don't know if 1 hour is going to be able to fit all this content, but that was like musical guests and dad guests and segments. I mean, this sounds amazing. I'm excited about it.
One thing about it, no, is like I wasn't for sure, just because typically like being in my role, like if I am on a show, I typically host. It's just kind of what we've done, and now I've confirmed I'm not hosting. I'm there. I'm there for the party only, and he can run the show. So I don't know. If nothing else, guys, listen. Like, come show up and see what happens.
The commenters seem excited. Dennis says he's scared for it a little bit. Vinny says 1 hour has never been long enough for Slim. So there's a lot of excitement for it. And again, it is kind of just the first one at least. It's a variety show, so you just kind of tune in and go, okay, what will happen here? I'm very much looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out.
Well, I mean, listen, we've heard all the stories from Slim's single days, and we know for sure that 1 hour is definitely not enough for Slim.
I'm pretty sure we're not going to get into those on this show.
Hey, it's a variety show. Oh wait, Dad Rap does not curse, and does not talk about that kind of stuff. Okay,
that's fair. Yeah.
All right, let's get back to the show, folks. All right, well, this week put your game face on. All right, we're back to racing. We're going to talk about Saturday's Iroquois in the Pocahontas Stakes, the first 2025. That's right, 2025. That's weird to type out and say. Kentucky Derby and Oaks prep races. Then we're going to give some rapid fire selections for the stakes action at Woodbine, including 3 winning your Breeders' Cup Challenge Series races. Let's go. Listen.
We'll cross the line of demarcation.
He definitely is. I think we're definitely going to cross that line this week. So it's going to be entertaining. again, I can't stress it enough. I'm not going to sit here and be like, it's the best show ever. You got to join us. It's going to be great. I don't know. But you know what? We'll all find out together.
I want a way to put it that's 100% accurate way to put it.
I don't know. We'll find out. But yeah.
Well,
listen.
what I've learned, we work with Slim, and we've worked with him for a long time on all kinds of different stuff. Is you kind of just let him tell you what he's going to do, and stop him if it gets crazy. But other than that, just kind of let him do his thing.
That's been his career with us since day one. It's,
yes.
You come to us with the ideas. We'll say yes or no. If you can, and then from there, we're gonna sit back and watch and see what happens.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I did rap once, and it helped me win Justify in the league. So
Slim was a judge that day, if you remember.
And he judged me. He gave me a good ranking over Magic even. So listen, I mean, it's very fitting that I'm his first guest.
Yep. I love that.
Rapper 1A and 1B, really. I mean,
that's what they say on the street.
That's what I hear. Yeah, that's what I hear. All right. Saturday at Churchill Downs, race number 10. It's the Grade 3 Iroquois Stakes. We're 300K going 1 mile for the 2-year-olds, of course, and Kentucky Derby points on the line. You got 10 points to the winner, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1 for your top 5 finishers of the race. Field of 12. That's these cards, dude. Especially these two, the Pocahontas and the Iroquois. My goodness. I mean, you got a field of 12 2-year-olds that are mostly stretching to a mile for the first time. Owen Almighty, who's been awesome. Irad has the mount 5-2 favorite, 8-9-2 on Jonathan's Way. You got 6-1 Politically Correct, who's a nice horse as well. But hey, listen, our boy, number 3, Jack's Time for Kelly Von Hemel. The Iowa bred coming in, 20-1 shot coming into the Iroquois, trying to get a trip towards the Kentucky Derby started here. What do you what a crazy field, and how cool is it that Jack's Time's in here?
Yeah, we'll start with Jack's Time, since that's, I'm sure, what we kind of want to talk about to start with. Of course, Kelly Von Hemel, you mentioned, good buddy of ours. And look, he really, honestly and truly, does not tip me on a horse very often. His son will send me something every once in a while, but the actual trainer himself won't, he doesn't tip me on just anything. And he talked to me maybe 2-3 weeks before this horse's debut and said, this is a really good horse. And the last time he'd sent me a message like that, it was Ain't Life Grand, who was a really good horse. So we were ready for the debut for Jack's Time, and he didn't disappoint. He broke awful from the rail, and we kind of looked at each other like, well, shit. And then within like a couple of jumps, he was right where he needed to be. Like, he made up the ground easy and won by over 10. So very, very excited to see him run here. And, with Ain't Life Grand, they took the conservative approach with him when he was this young, and kind of, got him into the Iowa bred races, and then took the shot. Where now we're taking a shot early. First of all, the maiden special weight Jack's Time one was not an Iowa bred race. So they put him against Open Company right away. And then I think they just said, look, we think he's really good. He did pretty much what we thought he would do. He doesn't need to be running against Iowa breds. He needs to go up here or go down here, I guess, from Iowa to Churchill. But he needs to go down to Churchill, and we need to see what we've got in him. I don't need to tell anybody a maiden special weight of Prairie Meadows to a Kentucky Derby prep is very difficult. I mean, that's a very big jump. But this horse deserves to be here. He's not bred like an Iowa bred at all. I mean, he earned his way. So we'll see. He looked awfully good.
It's not even like, that's the way I looked at it. It was, to be fair, I hope he wins. I'll probably use him on some of my tickets just because, like, obviously I want to have a piece of him.
Yeah.
But I think it's a tough ask. But it'd be a tough ask if the horse was coming out of a Saratoga maiden special weight.
Sure.
To this race. You're talking, anytime you go with maiden special weight as a 2-year-old to a graded stakes, which is a Derby prep, you're asking a lot of the horse. Prairie Meadows to that is about as hard as it gets when it comes to that standpoint. Now, anybody that watched that race, that's not like you mentioned this in the video too. It's like that's not your typical Iowa bred. It's not like, so it's like you got to take that with a grain of salt. He would have won a maiden special weight at a lot of tracks with that effort that day. So I don't. But the point is true. I mean, it is a Prairie Meadows to Churchill Downs jump. I think more than anything that I'm worried about is there is a lot of speed in the race, a lot of horses that want to go. It's a lot to ask when a horse has to kind of fight off and figure out that part as well. I mean, because again, it's not like he's ran 2 or 3 races he's ran once. So it's a lot to learn. It's a big learning curve.
Yeah, and that may be the biggest thing of all, not the talent level, but just the fact that we've won a maiden, and now we got to face this full field of 12, and it's really tough, and I think that's it. But, just one more thing, kind of before we go on, we can't talk about him the whole podcast. I wish we could, but you mentioned that, it's not the typical Iowa bred, and here's why. He's by Not This Time, who has 3 other horses in this race, by the way, Not This Time. And Not This Time, we already talked about on the show. One of the best sires, if not the best sire in the country. And he's out of an Into Mischief mare. And Into Mischief is pretty darn good on that side of it as well. The mare was Miss Brooklyn Brawler, a horse that Kelly also trained, was very precocious on as a 2-year-old as well. So, look, at the end of the day, if you put a KY by this horse, you wouldn't have any problem believing this, a Kentucky bred, right? So the breeding and where this horse was bred is totally irrelevant in this case. Some Iowa breds don't look like this from a breeding standpoint. This horse could have been bred anywhere. I mean, this is a good looking horse. So I just wanted to kind of point that out.
Yeah, and this is always a tough race. It doesn't necessarily. It's not an end all be all for a lot of these horses, especially a horse like Jack's Time. That you got obviously owners that are going to be aggressive with it as well. But it could be a very good learning experience. The horse runs 4th or something, picks up a couple points, but you could still see the horse as a 3-year-old on that first, especially at Oaklawn, let's just say, in the Smarty Jones or something like that as well. So I don't think it's it's like you got to win here or else you're off the trail. Sometimes that's the case, but this is a very good kind of measuring stick, and I think that's why they're doing it, really, honestly, because obviously the horse, you mentioned, we were touted on him from the get-go. Like, they obviously think this horse is good. So now it's like, all right, well, let's throw him into the mix here and see what we got. So let's move on though to the main the kind of the main thread, the favorite, Owen Almighty, who has not lost, for Brian Lynch. Irad Ortiz coming in to ride for the first time for him, but as this horse has just been dominant, has rattled off 2 wins, like I said, by a combined 8 lengths, and just kind of has done it, and went from 5.5 to 7, and just has looked. I mean, listen, that last race, Politically Correct, that's a nice horse, and it kind of looked like, oh, here we go, we got the stretch duel we want, and the horse just blazed by him. And I think being a Speightstown Baron mare, but like I don't know how far, but the mile I think will be fine.
Yeah, I agree 100% with the assessment of the breeding. I think. I don't know if I said it about this horse or not, but I was thinking it on the video. It's like, if this was a 1 1/16, it used to be a 2-turn race.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but a flat mile going a 1-turn mile here at Churchill Downs, I think it hits this horse right between the eyes. I think he'll be fine. Irad gets aboard to ride. I think that's a good sign as well. But you mentioned the biggest thing, and the reason why I think this horse is going to be really tough. Politically Correct, 2 races back, couldn't have looked more impressive at Churchill Downs. Just a really, really good race. Went over to Ellis Park in the Ellis Park Juvenile. And like you said, it was definitely bet like it was Owen Almighty versus Politically Correct. We're going to see the showdown. They got to the top of stretch. The showdown was getting ready to happen, but it wasn't any kind of a show.
No.
Owen Almighty just killed him. But here's the deal. It's not like Politically Correct faded to 3rd or 4th or won a photo for 2nd. He was 4 lengths clear of the 3rd place finisher. And what that tells me is Politically Correct ran his race and was not competitive against Owen Almighty. And to me, that's the biggest kind of indicator out of everybody else in the race. And I think there's a load of talent. Owen Almighty, he's got that proven look of, we know he went up against a pretty darn good horse. He waxed him.
Yeah, he's and I honestly, kept going back to him. I was like, well, I'm not, anytime you got a full field of 2-year-olds, making that first kind of jump up in the race, you're like, well, I'm going to try to beat the favorite, obviously, but there's really not a lot to go off of with him as far as any reason. He's 1-for-1 at Churchill, so you've got that kind of factor. The horse, again, I think the breeding is not, maybe doesn't scream, 2 turns, but this seems like it's going to be perfect. Has tactical speed, is quick, but doesn't need to be on the lead. I think there's just a lot of factors that point to the 5 Owen Almighty. But let's just say we're going to pick an upsetter here. Who are some of the other ones? Obviously, our hearts are going to be all about Jack's Time and rooting for him home. But I think the 7 Sandman and the 8 Magnitude, Jonathan's Way is not necessarily a huge long shot at 9-2, but I would be a little surprised if politically correct upset beat, like if it was like a stretch duel in that horse, because I think we kind of showed who's better. But any of those 3, I think, could win this race.
Yeah, I'm most interested in for second or quote unquote upsetter that's not that big of an upset would be Jonathan's Way. He was very impressive at Saratoga. I really like his draw. He got the 10 hole. I think he makes a lot of sense. He's one I'm definitely going to use. Magnitude, you mentioned that horse, so I won't say much more, but really woke up second out, ran very well. I thought the 4 Authentic Strike was very interesting as well as a horse. Only won by a neck on debut, but the figure came back pretty fast. Saez was riding that day. I thought he was very, very good that day, and I think he's one, to me, it looks like second start will improve. Distance shouldn't be a problem for this horse either. So the 4 Authentic Strike made sense to me as well. I top 4 in order, I would be like 5, 10, 8, 4 is probably where I would land. I really think the 8 and 4 are very interesting, longer prices.
See, I like the 7 quite a bit, Sandman. I thought kind of similar to the 8 Magnitude, that second start woke up a little bit. Now, watching it visually, I don't know that, like, I'm a little bit on the fence with him, because like visually I didn't think it was ultra impressive. Like, the horse just kind of cruised, but did get a big number. The horse is bred to go forever, right? $1.2 million son of Tappet, out of a distorted humor mare, but like just feels like a horse that's going to want to keep going. So the stretch out makes sense. And, I just, again, this has that tactical, can kind of sit off. And I think more than anything, it kind of reminds you of any other Tappet, right? That just has that kind of grinding, kind of keeps coming. So if the thing were to melt down, if you don't believe in the pace, as far as holding up, I like the 7 Sandman a little bit. The 7 Sandman. I like him a little bit too.
Tell you what, one last thing on him. He beat Innovator in that maiden special right there at Saratoga. And Innovator, he's kind of a typical Lucas up there, just a kind of a hard knocker. He can't get the job done, but he's not terrible. And he kind of beat him pretty easily. So I think that does count for something. And speaking of Innovator, he came back as a maiden, ran in that Hopeful Stakes. And again, he wasn't awful in that. So I do think that counts for something, that was the horse that he beat.
Kevin, we will draft will be in December. It's always December. It's like mid-December. It's always around my birthday. I always remember that, like the week before Christmas. So but probably December 15th. And let's see, let me look at the schedule here. It's usually like, we'll put out a date, a rough date, December 19th or the 12th, one of those probably.
I would say the 19th would be my guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. We'll wait. Listen, Kevin, you start making your list. And then what I'll do is I'll give you my list, and then you need to double check that they're Colts. And then for me, and then that'll be a good, just to have a second opinion. That'll be great for me.
That's true teamwork, and that makes my heart full.
But yeah, I'd like to apply for December 16th, Kevin. Okay, if you want to be a true friend of mine, I want you to put it on your calendar, and I expect a happy birthday wish
and roses.
I'd like to submit tentatively, of course, to the dictator that I would like to add in Kevin to the team, even if he doesn't want to be a full commitment of the team. It will let him decide, but at least like a sub, kind of one, like a 2, like a second in command, assistant to to the leader, to Jared on the team. So
assistant to the regional fantasy owner.
yes, there you go.
Yep. All right, Kevin B's in. He's in the league, but only as your teammate.
That's right. Yeah, I don't
He can't
want.
be by himself, and he can't be anybody else's teammate. Only
No, I
yours.
want him. I
Okay.
want him. I need him. I want him. All right.
Fair enough.
All right. Give me your pick. Final pick here of the Iroquois.
Yeah, I went number 5, Owen Almighty. I'm going to go, but I'm not going to single. I'm going to go deep in here because look, he's very good, but there are some horses that could jump up and might be getting better at the right time. But on top, I am going to go number 5, Owen Almighty.
Yep. Give me the number 5, Owen Almighty. I think he's just the one to beat here. I think he's coming in the race with the most class. But I do think there's, I guess a better question would be to like, how many of these horses do you think are like legit? Because the Iroquois is always is kind of a dicey race in terms of like producing a lot of big horses. It doesn't always mean that, but a lot of times it is. So is there anyone in here that is like, well, because like, again, Owen Almighty, like we're both picking him to win, but we both kind of said, well, 2 turns, certainly not mile and a quarter, maybe not his strong suit. So who is one in here that like maybe, as they get older and going a little bit longer might be interesting?
I think a lot of them would be the answer. I actually think this looks pretty darn good. I was thinking that today, Kelly Von Hemel at times can be have the worst luck because it seems like when he gets ready to take a shot with one that's really good and it's like he might go win it, and then they draw the race and it's like, damn it, that's like one of the better fields they've had in the last 5 years for this race. And that's kind of how I feel about it. I think cutting it back to a mile has made this a little bit easier on the 2-year-olds, and Kelly's horse probably would like to go a mile and 16, so there's another bad break for him. But anyway, it's such a tough race. I remember, when 8 Life Grand went to the Travers and then they drew the field and it's like, damn it, that's a hell of a field, So long story short, I think a lot of these could be pretty good. I think 5 or 6 of them may be pretty darn good horses. So I think it's a great running of the race.
All right, well, we'll find out. That's race number 10 at Churchill Downs on Saturday. Let's move back 2 races prior on Saturday. That is, of course, the race number 8, the Pocahontas Stakes, grade 3. We're $300K, 1 mile for the fillies, 2-year-olds. And it is a Kentucky Oaks prep race, 10, 5, 3, 2, 1 for your top 5 finishers. All right, well, I'll see your 12, and I'll raise you 2 more. Field of 14, at least signed up to run here, Halterman. And my goodness, I mean, if you thought the last race was tough, take your pick here. Comanche Cat at 9-2, 4-1 Stilettos. You've got Lucara at 5-1, Strong State at 5-1, looking to bounce back after a poor effort last time out in the rain. But where are you going here, man? Because this race, it'll make your head spin.
Tough race for sure. I'm gonna go cautiously with Lucara, the 3-horse. This horse was just kind of super disappointing 2 races back. Just didn't show up, didn't have anything. And I was about to give up on her. And then she finally showed who she was, at least I hope, because I'm picking her in this one. That last race at Saratoga was pretty damn good. 8-length win, just totally dominated. And then I think rolling back here makes sense. So I put number 3, Lucara, on top. I think she's going to be pretty tough to beat if she can go back to that last race. And like I said, she had been bet like she was going to be a pretty good horse, and she just never showed up, but she really did last time. So I'm going to reel back with her here and take her in this spot. But look, this is a mess. I'm going to go with the horse that I think is the most talented if she shows up with her biggest race.
Listen, I really wanted to pick Strong State. Who was it that said that? I'm not going to try to Sig Mendoza Racing. But I wanted to, because I picked this horse in the spin-away. I think I did. If I either picked her or I used her, I don't remember. But she just, and again, that was such a tough race to figure out because, I mean, the track was a disaster. It was raining. The horse didn't, one thing about it is the horse broke and then actually broke really well and just faded back. Like, this was not fast enough early in that race, which was a little bit of concerning because that was a big step up that day to go to that spin away. And then it was like, okay, maybe the horse did kind of rally to finish 4th, but I still think the horse has a lot to do, a lot of improving to do in order to win here in this race. So listen, I don't want to jump on board, but I will. The 3 Lucara, that was my pick here as well. I thought that race last time out was kind of a tell of how good this horse is. But also, you go look and you watch Quick Kick, a horse that this horse just annihilated that day, came back to win. And by the way, came back to win nicely, like looked good. And so to me, that was a big time performance and beat a nice horse that day, at least. And the number came back to kind of prove that. And really, like you said, the after the horse finished second that day, at Churchill Downs, and then kind of bounced a little bit at Saratoga, and then kind of rewarded your the backers that day at 4-1 whenever the horse did win. Kind of shows that this horse is a little bit tricky, but does have a ton of talent, and it's a tough race, dude. It honestly, there are like 10 horses, well, maybe not 10, maybe like 7 that I legitimately think I could definitely win the race.
Last comment on it. Doesn't it feel like the 5 for McPeak might win? Doesn't it feel like that's the race that he wins?
I mean, really, take the 1 maybe. The 1 could win.
Or the 1, yeah.
Yeah. Take the 5. Both of them coming in off wins. We're like, yeah, okay, of course, we should have known.
Yeah.
Like maybe the 14 is interesting, but drawing all the way to the 14 posts kind of sucks. But that horse was pretty damn nice, I thought, last time out. And being Liam's map, like a horse that likes to run and has some speed. Like I think that horse is interesting, but the post position, Convention Cat, which isn't isn't a long shot by any means, but Stilettos, Stilettos has looked awesome, dude. The first one, the win by Stilettos on debut, because it was a lone star, but won by like 20 lengths.
Right.
And then, then kind of showcased himself or herself in the next race at Ellis. But again, like I'm making a case for 4 or 5 different horses already, and it's not Romans. I mean, hell, we've seen Romans win a race like this, right? It's like it would not be surprising to see a bunch of these win.
Nope, it sure wouldn't.
And to that point, and I think it's an impossible question, but I'll ask you because I don't want to answer it. But I mean, is there anyone in here that you're particularly excited about, maybe moving down the road next year, or is it just literally like we'll let Saturday kind of tell us that?
Yeah, pretty much that's it. It's the same race on the Iroquois, but you kind of have a one horse that looks like maybe a little bit more of a standout. Where here it's a lot of horses. I mean, a lot of horses that it's like, okay, she's one race away from really making a name for herself. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of where we're at with this. It could be one of many, but I do think it's a strong race. I think there are a few horses that are going to be good, and we're going to try to start to find out who they are on Saturday.
How about Del Roman's training the 7 Quinn's Promise, who is promises fulfilled? So train the sire, and that horse has some speed as well, so that'll be interesting.
Yep.
Again, it's another one I'm pretty sure. I think that's an interesting one. Rosario aboard. This horse likes to, at least what we say likes to, has ran once, but came from off the pace. Maybe if this thing kind of collapses anyway, maybe this horse could get a piece. Sort of improbable. It's the list goes on. I think you need to go as deep as you can afford to go in this league.
I like this comment from Isaac. He said, Texas bred in this race, Iowa bred in the last one. Would be crazy if they both won.
That, I mean, wouldn't shock me. I mean,
no.
Maybe a little bit if they both won, but certainly both separately have good shots, I'd say. So just good as a lot of them. So it would be or Ohio bred,
or the Ohio bred. Yep.
We'll find out. I'm going with the 3 Lucara as well to win the Pocahontas. Just stay tuned, guys, because these 2 races are going to be fun ones to watch on Saturday. Man, they are like, this race is like, I don't even know, like, because I'm with you. Like, I don't really know. Like, I think there's some decent ones in there, but it wouldn't be surprising as well if they don't pan out. But from a just racing standpoint, it's going to be fun to watch Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, and you add in the element of Churchill Downs on this day in the past, in these races specifically, they've been a little funky, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get favorite all that often in these two races, and you add that into the equation, it's a real interesting development that'll be happening.
Yeah, and it's almost it's like it's impossible to predict. I mean, sometimes it's like, oh well, I would never would have got to that. So,
Yep.
just good luck everybody betting Churchill Downs. It is fun to have Churchill Downs back, and of course as a prep races to the Derby. But man, it's always a tough race to handicap and really to decipher the quality as it relates to the moving forward towards the Derby.
And I'll comment on having Churchill back. I was talking to Dennis the other day. Well, I think it was yesterday, and I said I'm so glad Churchill's back, so we don't have to watch Kentucky Downs anymore. And he goes, "Oh, I like the chaos." I said, that's not even what I'm talking about. I hate watching Kentucky Downs. I hate it.
Yeah.
I've gotten much better at handicapping there. I don't have any trouble handicapping at Kentucky Downs. I mean, it's hard, but you kind of get the feel for it. But I can't stand to watch that track. I never know where they're at. I never know what they're doing. You can barely see them. It's just awful compared to the other tracks.
I agree.
We were watching it.
I agree. I think the race, especially this year, the racing has the quality has been great. I mean, you got shippers from overseas coming in, you got huge purses, you got good races. I mean, you had Cogburn last week. I mean, but even watching Cogburn, I was like, oh my gosh, can this race end, please, so I can stop watching it. It's just not, and it's hard to exactly pinpoint one specific thing that's why. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's just the production value of it. Like you said, the angles are terrible. The track looks like you're watching horses running the field that has a fence around it. I mean, it personally doesn't do it for me. From a betting standpoint, it's super fun because the prices, it's just prices galore. And the quality of race, I used to not like it as much because of the fact it's well, yeah, but these are all kind of shitty horses. But now it's no, you're getting good horses come over. And come here, but I still have a hard time watching it.
Yeah, you have motivation other than betting, obviously, is the big motivator for anything, but you have motivation outside of just the betting to watch it day in and day out because there are much better stock being there. But Isaac is right again. It's you really need to listen to the track announcer to know where everybody's at in the race. And that is that is a huge I can confirm that, as what I should say, because I was watching with no sound at the football game last Saturday. I didn't know where any of the horses were. I didn't know who the hell it was because I'm not going to turn up the fucking Larry Colbus while I'm at the OU game, right? I'm not doing that. So I've got it on mute. And I'm like, I don't really know who won. We were watching Cogburn and my dad was like, I think that's him. I was like, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure,
So, how can you have 2 million, 1 million, multiple multi-million-dollar races now on these cards at Kentucky Downs, and you can't upgrade the cameras and the overall production value of it? Why?
I don't know the schematics of how it's set up, or I don't know. I've never been there. Okay. But it is better than it used to be. I'll say that. But I don't understand why they can't shoot it like a regular track. I don't know. There's got to be some reason because I don't think they want it to look how it looks. But I don't know. Maybe they do. I don't know. But there's got to be some kind of the way it's set up. They just can't do it or something. I don't know. But I would get a crew out there, whoever is good at this. It's figure out a way where people can watch this track and they know what's happening.
It's it's I always think they're in the stretch when they're not in the stretch. And then when they get to when they finally are in the stretch, I feel like the finish line never comes. And it's what is I don't know. Even watching Cogburn your day, you're like, I don't know. I think he's doing great, but what, is there half a race left? I can't tell.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to tell.
Flip the cameras and it's okay, you flipped it, but where am I? Where are we at now? And by the time the meet ends, you're almost used to it, and then you don't see it for a year, and then it comes back, and you're like, oh shit, I forgot again.
Yeah, then you watch a normal track, and you're like, oh yeah, that's.
And I texted Paul the other day when he was going to Kentucky Downs, and I'm like, it's not even I get it. It's fun and like I'm done like trying to argue, if it's is it good, is it bad, is whatever. It's different and it's fun to bet, and but it's like I really wish this was a normal track that they were running these horses at, because it's just you can't get anything from it. You just can't. Like, it is what it is that day, and that's how you have to handicap it. But coming out of it, it's a meaningless kind of race when you go forward from a handicapping standpoint. I'm talking about, which is all 99.9% of us care about, right? Handicapping. So that's just it's kind of a pain in the ass when it goes that way.
It's like, as we're very used to, it's like kind of like like, oh well, it sucks to watch, but the bettors will still bet. It's fine, It's like, let's not add, because like it's like, well, that's not adding to someone betting, in their minds. So it's like, well, who cares? Like, they'll figure it out,
See, but I actually think it would enhance
betting. I agree. I do too. But
I get text every year when it starts being like, I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, I can't help you. I don't either.
You know, it's like, it's such a weird meet. It's a short meet. The way they run it, it's like different, these random days, and it's such a niche meet. Like, I feel, and they have they've made their fame. Like, I remember when it started, and we're like, well, this is weird, and it's like, now they've really created something there, which I completely applaud.
Yep.
And so I think that you would have the ability to like make put a camera on the inside rail or something, and like for that first angle, and then like have the just something we get creative, like where we see overseas sometimes, and just like you would have that. I don't know. They just strike me as like they would have the ability, or the the stones to like try something different, because they.
What about like a drone?
Yeah,
like an overhead shot of it,
which would make sense for a track like that, because it's so big and you don't really know where they're at on the track. Yeah, that would be cool. I don't know. Well, you know what?
Didn't ask us, so
we don't work there, so it's fine.
No.
All right, time for rapid fire, presented by Best Bets. Make sure you go check out the Best Bets page over at racingdudes.com. You can see all our best bets. Halterman's, myself, Papa Dude, everyone's playing how they're playing every single day. Obviously, with Churchill Downs, Keeneland, Breeders' Cup coming up, all the things. Papa Dude, we got football bets coming up as well with football here. So all kinds of stuff. There's literally any best bet that we have for that day. I know a lot of people ask, like, hey, you got all these picks, all these different tracks. Who do you like? Who are you playing today? Well, we get that answer there on the Best Bets page over at racingdudes.com. All right. We're going to go to Woodbine. Woodbine's got a big day of racing on Saturday, a bunch of Breeders' Cup winning your in races. We'll kick things off with race number 5, the Johnny Walker Natama Stakes, grade 1, 500K, on the turf for 2-year-old fillies. It is a Breeders' Cup winning your in for the juvenile fillies turf. You've got a large field here of 13 lined up here, and Applebee's got them all over the place on Saturday at Woodbine. 5-2 on all the way to the outside, number 13, Mountain Breeze. Are you picking or trying to beat?
Stupidly on this one, I tried to beat Appleby. I really, the more I just looked at it, I like number 11 Vixen on top. 10-1 on the morning. Oh no, we're on the same horse. Oh boy. Well, okay, I'll keep going here. I'll keep it short so you have something to talk about. I like number 11 Vixen, 10-1 on the morning line. Johnny Velasquez gets aboard this time for Mark Cassie, who's been on fire. Cassie's got like 38 horses entered in this 13-horse field. But look, I thought the horse was not bad on debut, but stretching out to a mile, second out, looked just tremendous. And I think this is kind of an up-and-comer. I didn't think this field was great, and I thought Vixen had a big shot. Now, the Appleby horse could be pretty decent, and maybe Vixen or any of these horses can't beat her, but I like 11 Vixen on top.
Yeah, and what's interesting is, like you mentioned, Cassie's got 42 horses in the race, and he's also got Vixen and a couple others double entered in the boys race in the summer stakes. So I assume Vixen's going to run in the fillies because she, but we'll see. Velasquez is obviously on a couple of different ones, so we'll find out how it kind of shakes out. But I do like Vixen as well on top. You pretty much laid it out. I thought, that first race was good. Just needed a little bit more ground and a little more kind of seasoning. Also, the two horses that beat her that day came back to win, so I thought that was a very classy field. then came back and looked dominant in the next start going a mile. So, yeah, I really like her here. I think this is a perfect race for her. And like I said, JV getting aboard. And when it comes to the 13 Mountain Breeze, like you kind of said it, I have my question marks with the horse going this long. The races that I've seen, obviously the horse has never gone past 7 furlongs, and again, overseas, but it doesn't seem like the horse doesn't feel like the mile is like going to make a difference. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong, obviously, but kind of feels like, hey, we'll try it here. I don't see her being like a lock especially at 5-2. So I'm going to try to beat her.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. Exactly. Yep.
Well, that's scary. So we both see the race the exact same way.
Yep.
And we landed on a 10-1 shot. So what could go wrong?
So much.
Tune in on Saturday to find out what. We'll go to race number 7 now. The EP Taylor Stakes, Grade 1. We're 750K going mile and a quarter on the turf for fillies, mares, 3-year-olds, and up. Field of 6 lines up here, dude, and we got a good one. This is a hell of a race. Moira, who damn near we were watching it together that day at out there in Seattle, of all places, Emerald Downs, and 7-5 on Moira, 7-2 on Fev Rover. Those two last time faced each other, but you gotta look at the 6, man. Cinderella's Dream, who's the Appleby horse at 2-1. Buick riding, coming over. Horse has been really good over here in 2 starts this summer. So is it Moira or is it Appleby?
I was a little concerned with Moira last time out. I didn't think that was the greatest of efforts. I know she won, but you remember watching it, we were like, oh, I'm not sure here. This is a tougher challenge. I like Cinderella's Dream. Give me the 6 Cinderella's Dream. You said came over here twice, looked very good twice. It is a 3-year-old stepping up now to face older horses, and that's not easy ever. But Buick back aboard again for the 3rd straight time, and really love that Saratoga Oaks. Well, I love the Belmont Oaks too. Saratoga Oaks was good as well. So I'm on the number 6 Cinderella's Dream in this one.
Listen, we don't. We do it on purpose. We don't talk at all. We'll go through and say, hey, what races are we doing, and that's it.
Yeah.
And if we don't talk, we don't talk about who our thoughts on the race are, because then we get on the show and we don't want to. Yeah. Like, that's exactly how I saw the race.
This is scary.
and even to a point of Moira. Like, I kind of feel like, and I love Moira, but the 2 starts this year since the Breeders' Cup last year, she's, again, you don't want to, you can't shit on her. She finished 2nd the Diana, and she won the Beverly. But from the Moira she has been, I just, maybe she's starting to tail off a little bit. I don't, it's not even fair to say when you look at her class, but when you're trying to predict her losing, I think you kind of have to look at that. And so for that reason, I am leaning towards the 6 Cinderella's Dream. I like the fact that this horse has been unbeatable at this distance, 2 for 2 at this distance. And really, I know as a 3-year-old, but has looked really good in the Belmont Oaks and Saratoga Oaks, and just kind of the way she's won it has won it like one of those really good Appleby turf horses that do. So give me the 6 Cinderella's Dream. I hope we get 2-1. The 7-5 love on Moira. I don't know. Do you think those odds will stay like that?
I think so. I think Moira will be the favorite. So yeah, I think you'll get close to that.
Nice. Well, let's hope we get it home. We're both on number 6 Cinderella's Dream. Let's go to race number 9, the Bet365 Summer Stakes, Grade 1, 500K, 1 mile turf. For the 2-year-olds, of course, field of 14 lines up here. Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, when you're in on the line here in this one. 3-1 Alcarda at, of course, Appleby and Buick. So, are you going Appleby Buick again?
Yeah, I am going to go Appleby Buick. I am going to go with the 9 here. This is one, I liked it a little. I liked him, I should say, a little bit better than the female version that we talked about in the Natalma. And look, I thought the race last time out was very good at Ascot. And unlike the female version of the Appleby entry, I felt like this one is going to stretch out and be okay. I really thought a mile will be okay for this horse. So I did go Appleby here, and I did go with the 9.
Yeah. I mean, there you go. Once again, that's where I'm going. I mean, I might as well just sit back and let you kind of just take over the show. So really the biggest threat in the race is New Century, and you go back and watch that Pat Edery at Ascot, and this horse just he manhandled him, like he just kind of went right by him, and it looked for a second like, and then it's like no, Alquadra just kind of cruised on. So to me, that looks like a horse when you watch those kind of races or those performances. You're like, all right, that's a horse that's going to want to go longer and keep going. So I do think, I'd be surprised if this horse is 3-1, but I do think this horse is the most likely winner. And listen, you got a couple nice Appleby horses running on this card, and even though the Cinderella's Dream, the EP Taylor, is not a Breeders' Cup, quote unquote Breeders' Cup race. These are prep races for the Breeders' Cup. And so, Appleby's going to come in with so many horses this year. That's the one thing about Appleby. It feels like this year he's always got one or two like really good ones. It feels like he's got a bunch of just like a little lower level than the really good ones. You know what I'm saying? Like they're all good, but they're all like there's no like huge stars. There's a few, right? But there's like he's going to have a shit ton in these races. So we've been seeing a bunch of them this summer, Yep.
Oh yeah, it's nice to kind of have more than just him every once in a while. He's been here a lot for the big days, and we have learned that kind of Buick is the sign. If Buick's here, that means they're pretty serious. And then if Prat's aboard, it means they're kind of serious. And if it's anybody else, take your chances, right? That's kind of how it's been all year. So again, and I said it, we'll talk about it again, I'm sure in the next race, but when Buick comes over with him, that's always a really good sign.
Yeah, 26 starts, Appleby Buick, 35% this year. All right, let's head on over to the last one, and we'll see if we can go 4 for 4 here. Alterman, the Rogers Woodbine Mile Stakes, Grade 1, $1 million, 1 mile on the turf for the 3-year-olds and up, field of 8. Lines up here, always a huge race every single year, and make no, guess what? Appleby and Buick, even money favorite, Naval Power, going up against Filo Diana at 5-2. You've got Big Rock at 6-1, but really, when you look at the race, dude, it comes down to Naval Power versus Filo.
Yeah, and I wanted to beat Naval Power. I'll go ahead and say that right off the bat. So I went to Filo Diana, and I really just think he's better going 6 furlongs or 5.5 or even 5. I know he's won some big races going a mile. Don't get me wrong. And I'm not saying he can't get a mile. I'm saying it's not his absolute best distance. I think just a little shorter is better. So I was just like, yeah, I might pick him. And then I went to Big Rock, and it's like, if this was a year ago, he would probably be the pick. But boy, he's just been off form. I don't really trust him. You look at some of these other ones, I just don't like them very well. And you kind of just go back and go, well, if Naval Power can run back to either one of those races, isn't he going to win? Like, yeah. And when I'm saying the 2 races in the United States this year, I think he's the best horse. So I didn't really want to going in, but coming out, I think number 2 Naval Power is the one to beat. So that's what I put on top.
I guess we're gonna go down, or we're gonna cash together or go down together on Saturday. So, I thought that race at Churchill was such a big effort from him, and clearly a horse that maybe didn't want to go quite that long, or he obviously can do. He's won at multiple distances, but he kind of looked like a winner, and then program trading snuck up the rail there. But really, and then the race prior, who did he get beat by? Oh, just Master of the Seas, like. And there's another really good effort. So this horse has just been battling really good horses, and that's since coming, from overseas and running in Maidan, and just as an Ascot winning by 6 at Ascot. We talked about the Pat Edery a second ago. This horse last year or 2 years ago won by 6 lengths in that race. And so Naval Power, I think, is a legit horse. And so is the number 5, though, to be fair. This is a horse that loves, especially legit at Woodbine. 5 for 5 at Woodbine. You mentioned the distance, but has won 3 times in the 5 starts at that mile distance. So, not to take a lot again, but you talk about a horse that just looks like is running his best right now, and that to me is the number 2, Naval Power. So give me the 2 Naval Power to win here, dude. And I think this horse, if he wins here, like I think he will, he's gonna be the favorite, if not one of the favorites, to win the mile.
Yep, I agree.
All right, there we go. Yeah, it's gonna be. I do think we're going to, again. I don't know, winner if we're talking winners, but I think we're going to see a handful of horses that are going to be lower prices in the Breeders' Cup this on Saturday. So
It feels like it. Yeah, it does.
they look like, again, I think Naval Power. Like, I'll be a little surprised if Naval Power doesn't run well. Now, if he wins, I don't know. We'll see. But he just, the way he's been running all year, or else, he feels like a horse that's that it's classy enough to win this thing for sure.
Talking about Naval Power and Ron, I'm with you. He just can't forget that was such a heartbreaking loss.
Especially at 3-1.
Yeah, it was one of those races you never felt bad, but you never felt good. It's like he's running, but gosh, I don't think he's gonna. It's like I think he's gonna hold on. He's just not kicking away.
And Ron, you remember he was like a sweaty mess that race, and just
yeah.
you just knew, you're just like, oh no, like it does not look great. But again, you're like, he might get there. And even when program trading was trying to get up there, you're like, oh, come on, cut him off the rail. Don't let him get the rail. And he just couldn't fight him off. So
no. Chris Press is Master of the Seas retired. No, but they just can't get him healthy. He just can't. He can't find can't get back to the track. But he's not retired. We'll see if he can get him entered somewhere.
Yeah, the mile, really not just the mile, the turf and / mile kind of Breeders' Cup every year is Chad Brown versus a Euro, and it sounds like we're going to see that with Carl Spackler and Naval Power, or whoever you want to throw in that circle. But yeah, it always feels that way in a lot of these ones. So yeah, the turf, man, the turf mile. Of course, remember last year? It's like after all that. We have Euros. Would they run 1, 2, 3, or did they run 1, 2? It was just 1, 2, but
maybe 1, 2. Yeah,
I don't remember who finished third, but yeah. So the mile is always historically, it's like Chad Brown or a Euro. Just the way you go, and a lot of times the Chad Brown is a former Euro. So okay, 1, 2,
1, 2. Yeah, Carl Spackler, he looked awesome. In the 4-star day. So
awesome.
Yeah. Casa Creek got third. That's right. Yeah.
All right, guys, that's all the time we have. Check us out at racingdudes.com for free picks and our premium selections on the products page. Click the Get Racing Dudes premium button in the menu at racingdudes.com to learn more. It's a little early, but here, I mean, gosh, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, man, we're going to start. I mean, the planning is already going to be in the works for the Breeders' Cup. The betting Bible. I mean, we're like I say, we're probably going to start the selling of that here in the next couple of weeks, really. So, and we're going to lead up that. So we'll have a big betting Bible for the Breeders' Cup this year. So be on the lookout for that. Become a premium subscriber. I know the racing is lighter. It's great, obviously, in the fall, but it's lighter than it is in the summer. But it's still a good time to be a subscriber because you can get in for as low as $70 a month and get access to all the picks every single day, but also those betting Bibles when they come available. We're on Twitter at @racing_dudes, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can find all episodes of this Blinkers Off and all our Blinkers Off by visiting our podcast page on the website, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, as well as our YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, we appreciate it. If you haven't, go to YouTube and just search Racing Dudes. Find the Blinkers Off there and hit that like notification and subscribe. And so you get alerted every time we go live. It's always fun to interact with us and talk to the chat while we're doing these shows. What have you guys done? I'm sorry, Dudes Who Bet Sports. You guys go over your picks for Churchill Downs Churchill Downs, college football and NFL, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's correct.
Okay, I gotta ask. What do you think of the Rams? That's your pick. What do you think of the Rams game?
Yeah, I mean, not ideal. Would have liked to see them win. That's for sure. But I mean, they kind of showed that they can go up there and compete with the best teams, some of the best team, or one of the best teams in the NFC. But
for sure,
you got to beat them, at some point. And that's kind of
losing Puka for at least a month. That's gonna hurt.
Well, yeah.
But I do agree that they looked bad. they were weird because they looked really bad, and then just like then they kind of got it together a little bit. And I think obviously week one, you're gonna have those issues. I think I wouldn't be. I'm not necessarily worried about it, but it's just like if they would have lost, but Puka was fine. But losing Puka, that changes a lot because they had a lot of stuff. I mean, Cooper Kupp looks like Cooper Kupp of old, so hopefully he can stay healthy. And they've got obviously a lot of talent, and they like to run the ball. And you got Stafford, so I mean they'll be okay. But losing Puka doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. And like I said, you kind of had some different stuff, I'm sure, planned, and now you're kind of just back to we don't have Puka, at least we have Kupp. Where last year we had Puka but not Kupp, and so you had to be looking forward to having both of them on the field. But yeah, no, end of the day, I thought it was a pretty good game. And again, you wish they would win, but they didn't. And the entire chat was on the Rams for this week, coming up week 2. My Papa Dude was on the Rams, so I took Arizona this week. So I think the Rams start 0-2.
Arizona, they battled in that game. I thought the week 1 they played. If Kyler would have looked to his right, they would have won the game because assuming Harrison would have caught the ball. I don't know. He dropped one earlier in the game that he should have caught. But yeah, that would have had a lot of Arizona isms in it. I felt like they're just one of those teams, man. They're tough. Obviously the Chiefs just won by literally a toenail, basically. What a hell of a game that was. This was such a weird game because you and I were obviously talking the whole game. It was like this game never felt close, and then it was close, and I don't know. So,
the Chiefs.
Yeah, exactly. Like you kept waiting. Like, they're gonna pull. They're up 10. You're like, they're gonna pull away. No, they're not. They're gonna just hang around and make it close. And Lamar still can't win the big ones. So that's his deal. But and listen, I'll just say this: I thought Lamar, he looked like he. I don't even know that he looked good. He's a hell of a runner. Like he's an elite runner. It's insane. Like he should not be able to run like he can against NFL caliber players, and he does. He's elite, but can he do that over a course of a season? He's already missing practice. I don't know. I think if you got to be worried about it long term.
Totally.
And by the way, they should have won the game. Okay, or at least they should have tied it for sure because he missed the most wide open 2 throws prior to that, right? He just is not a reliable passer, and he never will be a reliable passer, and that's going to be his MO for the big games. So,
correct. Yeah. I thought he played great when he pulled it down and ran, or when the call was a run. I thought he looked great, and when he threw, I thought he looked like shit for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You can say, well, guy stays in bounds there, they tie the game, but it's like you said, well, he could hit a guy standing wide open. They wouldn't even have the play where the guy's foot was out of bounds. So it's, he is who he is at this point, and it's crazy to think it's anything else. Look, his running is just elite. It just is, and if he could just be an adequate passer, he would probably be the best quarterback in the league, but he's not.
What's insane is I think what he did in that game, and he does this a lot, is I think he tried to take that game over on his own and win. And so it all the running and things are insane and they're great, but and the defense, our defense was clearly gassed because shit, the guy's scrambling every play, and it's like impossible to get to the guy, and you rush him, and he's breaking the pass rush and cutting it downfield for 20 yards. I mean, how many third and longs were they converting on bullshit plays? Yeah. But that's what he does, and but it was again, it's like you never we'll get to Burrow in a second. Burrow has the ball, or Josh Allen even has the ball. You're like, oh man, all right, but with him, it's like, all right, I just, you don't, when the game's on the line, you're like, I don't know, I'm just not worried about it as much as those guys. But
no,
how were my brother-in-law is a Bengals fan, and I told him, I was like, I think that might be the worst loss of all time for the Bengals. How do you lose at home to New England, who might going into the season, and I still think they are like might be the cross the board worst team in the league. They don't even have they don't even have a fantasy player that's real. I mean, Stevenson maybe, but that's it.
Well, I think the Bengals have a lot of losses in their history that are bad. So I'll start off with that. Look, it was awful. They looked how they've been looking the last few years at the first of the season. They're not interested really, and Burrow just kind of looks like a shell of what he was. And I mean, still, you got to beat New England, even if you got the backup out there. You got to beat New England, and it's unexplainable as how bad they are. And I don't know. I've seen them turn it around. We've seen them turn it around, but again, you just couldn't start off any worse again. Like just dreadful, and it's like they're not going to win a game type. How bad they looked, and they're better than that. But
yeah,
I mean, it was just embarrassing.
Yeah, though. I mean, that's the thing. Like, and I don't know. I don't have the stat like in front of me, but it's something insane. Like over the course of the last, maybe Burrow's tenure or whatever it's been, like the Bengals are like 1-9 or something in the first 2 games or whatever it is. Like of the season. Like for some reason they can't start a season at all. And I don't know what that is or mean. And it doesn't help the fact that you've got Jamar Chase, who's being a complete diva on, off the field about his contract. And then you got Higgins that's hurt, and you lost Mixon. So you got a lot of turnover there. And I think, and I saw this, Burrow's 1-9 the first 2 weeks. Thank you, Ron. I was close. That was a pretty good guess. I think, Kevin, you're right. I don't think his wrist is good. It was a weird wrist injury, they said, when it happened. Like, it was like something they don't have any experience with football players, really.
Right.
And so that was the one thing. And there's video of him on the sidelines, or a couple different times where he's like doing this, and he's kind of doing this kind of thing. And it might be nothing, but it could, I mean, even if it's a little, like, that's just something, and whatever that is.
Walk around doing that, so it's something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
I do sometimes, but that's because I'm old, and so my wrist hurts or my shoulder hurts or whatever, and I'm like, God damn, But I'm not trying to throw the ball, in professional football either. So,
right, yeah,
that was a heavy water bottle. Yeah, he said he was drinking water. I was like, all right, well, that's interesting, but
again, if he's hurt, get him out. I mean, that's just it. I think we've learned and we've proven it over and over and over. If you're an NFL quarterback and you're hurt, do not go out there. Yeah. Don't do it, because any little thing, if you're off, they will kill you, because it's that kind of level, right? It's they asked Baker Mayfield about that. The one horrible year of his NFL career, he was hurt the whole season and he played through it. And he's like, what I learned is I'm not invincible, and you cannot go out there hurt and expect to play well. And that's just it with Burrow. If you're hurt, get him out.
Yeah, you get to this level, and other than maybe Patrick Mahomes, and maybe that's it, right? Currently playing, where it's like if you have an injury, you can't just mask it and keep dominating like you can in college. You're playing against dogs across the board.
Yeah, no, and that's Mayfield basically said as much. He's like, when you get up to this level, you can't just go be Johnny Tryhard out there and I'm going to tough it out. He's like, it doesn't work. You physically have to be 100%, especially when you're Baker Mayfield. And like you said, there's a couple quarterbacks that might be able to get away with it, but most of these guys, you better have all your weapons available to you with your body, or you're not going to do it. And even Burrow, if you've got a hurt wrist and your job is to throw the football, you probably need to rest it until it's 100%. You're probably doing more harm than good.
We're going to find out what their deal is, I guess, this weekend, because what do you get by your reward by losing your home opener to the Patriots? Well, you get to travel to Arrowhead and play your rivals at Arrowhead week 2. So it's been the game. I'm surprised it's not the Sunday night game. I kind of thought it would be, but it's 3:00 game or 3:30. But at Arrowhead, even as a Chiefs fan, I know they'll be they'll be ready to play the Bengals. Meaning, I'm not looking at that game being like, oh well, they lost to them. Like, this is going to be an easy game. No, I know the Chiefs and I know the Bengals. I know the history. Every game we play with them is close. And so but I do think if there is a case that they come into Arrowhead and get blown out, which I think is unlikely. But if it did happen, then you're like, wow, the Bengals go from being a threat to they're 0-2 and they're getting killed by the Chiefs and getting beat by the Patriots. So this is a huge game for the Bengals.
Huge, yeah. I'll say it again, big. But good for them. I mean, I can't sit here and support them. I even if they won last week, I wouldn't sit here and be like, oh, I think the Bengals will go in there and win. So they better get much better very, very quickly.
By the way, your boy Baker I was just checking him out, plus 5,000 on the MVP so far. Right? Listen, he will not win MVP because he's not good enough to win MVP, but he is MVP of that team.
I've tried to tell you for years, and you'll never say it, but he's an adequate.
I will say it. I shit all over him.
He's an adequate NFL quarterback that was at a disaster of a franchise, and now he's at a franchise that has a bunch of winners around him, and he's doing fine. Like,
dude,
he can't win in Cleveland. He has more success in Cleveland than anybody in the last century. I mean, you can't win there. I'm sorry. It was a disaster.
Deshaun loves it there, I heard.
And see, that's just it. Now they got a real quarterback now. Who cares that he, did everything? A sexual assault. Doesn't matter. He's a real quarterback. He is a disaster there.
Oh, total.
They would love to have Baker Mayfield back. And again, he's not a great quarterback, but he's the only quarterback in the history of that franchise that actually wanted to be the Cleveland Browns quarterback. And they ran him out of town.
He is, and I've never just like, that's the one thing I've always been said about him is like, because he's just a baller.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, if it's a 2-on-2 game in the yard or he's competitive, right? Like that's just his nature. Yeah. But yeah, by the way, I misspoke. Mike Evans actually is MVP of that because all you got to do. There's audio. I don't know if you saw this where he's like, Baker, meaning like during the game, he's like, if they're man covering you, I'm throwing it to you every single time. And he's like going off the sideline. He's like, this is like not fair. Like this is like a cheat code. Like all I have to do is throw it to him, and he's making these insane catches.
And again, it's the first wide receiver he's had that's not an asshole and actually will play down to down as hard as he can and actually has talent. I mean, it's the first one that he's had. I mean, I know he had OBJ, but it's like that guy totally dicked off in Cleveland. Now, when he went to the Rams, he woke up for sure. But the guy that was playing for the Rams that half season, that wasn't the guy in Cleveland. He didn't do shit, and everybody blamed Baker. And it's like, the guy's an idiot. He doesn't, because here's the deal with Cleveland. Let me be very blunt. Nobody wants to be there. Period. OBJ didn't want to be there either. And I get it. And listen, when you watch that franchise, you understand it. I've watched bad teams before. When I followed them for 4 years and watched every play of the Cleveland Browns, I wanted to die.
Just imagine if you lived in Cleveland and watched every game like that.
Jared, they invent ways to lose. They lost games where you would go, what? How did that happen? And I'd just be like, I would text Geis. Geis Battle is a Browns fan. I don't think he is anymore. He quit him when they got rid of Baker and got Watson.
Good call.
Good call. And I quit him too. Well, but anyway, we'd text back and forth. Like, is this always how it is? Every time this happens? He's like, yeah, no, every time. He's like, every year it's the same. Wow. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I'll say this. Here's my week one AFC NFC championship predictions. Chiefs versus Texans, Lions versus Niners. Just based off week one. I mean, this is how I thought they looked. I thought the Texans looked really, really well. Are good. And I think CJ is just a beast. I mean, in that they're not there yet, but you can tell that wide receiver group is going to be special this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, I think Chiefs are going to be super good. I think I still will stick by the Rams, but
well, I mean, listen. Imagine living in Springfield. Yeah, it's it's not great. It's not awesome, but it's better than Cleveland, I bet. So
I don't live in Springfield, but I don't think it's bad.
yeah, this is amazing. Have you seen this? Wow.
I have not seen it, but I've heard about it.
Well, okay, have you heard it? Poor guy got fired by ESPN today, so yeah. They canned him after. Well, I still don't understand how that happened. I mean, how that happens. Apparently he went. Imagine going live even on our platform, which is, I mean, I would say slightly smaller than Shannon Sharp's platform. But imagine going live on ours and while you're having sex with Heather, and it's like, how do you come back from that? And not only that, like, he is intensely talking to the lover on the other end of Shannon Sharp. So it's like, it's intense, and you're like, oh God, dude, like, this is weird. And then there's even rumors where, like, it sounded like a dude's voice, which I don't think it did, but it's super weird. And by the way, he went on air and, like, he's like, no, that was me. Like, it's not like he like, oh, there was my account got hacked and blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, that was me. And it's just like him and Chad Johnson talking about it, and I think ESPN was like, all right, you're fired.
It's tough because he didn't purposely do this, right? So you hate that he got fired because it's like, he didn't mean for this to happen.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, it was an accident. However,
so basically what happened was he accidentally went live.
Yeah.
He
hold on before you go. Imagine not knowing what happened. Anyway, go ahead.
Right. He went live. He accidentally went live on Instagram. I don't know. I don't even know. Was it last night or 2 nights ago? I don't know when it was.
Imagine text me Tuesday, I think. Tell me.
Okay, so a couple
or
days
maybe
ago,
Wednesday. I don't remember. Yeah.
So, and all you see is like the ceiling or whatever. Like, you don't see anything, but you hear. And he's like, he's going to town. Okay, let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And based off of what I heard, he's a very vocal lover. A little aggressive, I might add, as well.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
And so it was like, imagine just hopping on it. You're like, oh, Shannon's live. Like, if you like, let's see what he's talking about football today or whatever. You hear that?
Yeah.
It's like, I can't remember what it was. Like, don't run away from me. Come on, take it or something. It was like, oh shit, dude. It was weird. Okay.
It was.
And then he leaned into it when him and Ocho Cinco or Chad John, whatever he calls himself now, was like, he leaned into it. It wasn't like trying to like cover, like, shit, whatever, like it was an accident or whatever. Like, yeah, it was an accident, but he's like, yeah, Michelle had her hands full, so she wasn't one that did it. It's like, wow, all right.
Well, I think once it gets to that point, you have to do that. Like, what more can really be said?
Yeah. I heard that too. He's like, at least it was Michelle and not a Michael. And he's like, he goes, I've never been with there ain't no Michaels in my, or something like that. And it's like, all right, well, that's good. Because this day and age, you hear about the rappers and stuff, and Will Smith and whatever. It's like, good Lord, can you imagine? And like some dude on the other end of that, and now we got that to talk about. No. I mean, hey, do your thing, but I just don't,
But
don't really want to hear it,
I know.
Especially on Shannon Sharp's Instagram. But all right, well, there you go. So that's the latest in football.
I don't. I feel
somewhere Skip Bayless is dying laughing.
Well, look, I do, honest to God, honestly and truly. And again, aren't you like 99% sure this wasn't? He didn't mean to do this.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Why would you? You know that.
Well, people are crazy, but I kind of feel awful for him. Seriously.
Yeah. Because it wasn't, even though it might be like awkward by any stretch, but and maybe a
Right.
little aggressive, but like it was consensual, right? With his, I don't know if he's married or whatever, but like it was not. It was obviously personal, and it's like, so it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like it's his business, and he didn't mean to have it be everyone's business, but now we're talking about it, and the whole world has heard it now, and yeah. I don't know how you accidentally go live. I don't. That seems a little weird. I don't, but
that I agree. I agree, and that's kind of why I'm like I'm not saying he did it on purpose at all, but it's like, how do you let that happen, type of thing, I don't know.
All right. Well, on that note, who are you picking tonight?
I went with the Dolphins, but I wouldn't. I'm not betting the game.
I guess we should. That was interesting with the old Tyreek as well last week.
Okay. See, I don't care anything about that.
What was your take on it?
I don't care.
But what would you say? Whose fault would you say it was?
I didn't even watch it, so I don't care.
I think that he was. Listen, I think by far the police were way too violent or whatever, went overboard. But I do think that he I wouldn't say he asked for it, because like that's not fair to say. But like the dude, like he wasn't cooperating, right? He was being very Tyreek Hill, like, hey, I'm Tyreek, like I don't need to answer your questions. I'm trying to get to the stadium or whatever. And they were really aggressive about kind of responding to that as well, and then dragged him out and all that shit. So I thought it was a little bit insane on both sides, but yeah, it's a whole deal, man. Like he wants them fired, and they want, and the attorneys for the police want them reinstated. It's a whole thing. I think it's a little both, honestly. Like you and I would have been like rolled down our window and been like, I'm sorry, but like he had his window up and wouldn't like respond to the police, and they were on, so it's just like he escalated it and they took it to a level that it didn't need to get to, basically. So
he played in the game.
He played and was elite like he normally is, and took an 80-yard, one that should have been like a 20-yard play to an 80-yard play to win, basically win the game, really. So but yeah, it was interesting week one, guys. Shoddy, I don't know. We were talking about that earlier with Slim. I haven't heard of it's a game time decision. By the way, that's really cool. I mean, I'm implementing that tonight in the Sleeper app. The Sleeper app is sweet. So we're using this year in our fantasy league, as well as I know people that use Sleeper app over the years, but I have it set because I have a game tonight. Oh yeah, I have a game tonight. The Falcons have a game tonight, and so I won't be able to like watch to see if he's playing. So you have a setting in it where you can automatically sub him out for X player, whoever you have on your bench, if he is inactive. And so I've got it set to put J.K. Dobbins in if he is out. So that is pretty sweet, though. And 2-0, first place, Falcons.
Yep.
First place, baby. So
like John White and I told you, your Falcons team probably has a better quarterback than what the Falcons played in week one. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. We were watching the game on Sunday, and I told that to Cohen as well. I said, hey, you could play better than Cousins. Well, you could make that throw.
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to actually, you know what, Kevin? That's a great comment, because I need to text the group and ask them who's bringing snacks.
That is the most important thing at that age.
Yeah, we played the second best team last week. They were the best team going into the game. We were down 0-6 at halftime. It was looking bleak. Couldn't get anything going, and a couple different play designs, and got the team motivated, and ended up winning 22-6. So made a comeback, took over the game. The defense really stepped up, and tonight we play the Patriots, who are about as bad as the Patriots in real life. So I expect another win. I think we're 30-point favorites tonight. So
30-point favorites. I'll lay it. Give me minus 30. I'll take it. If it's just 30, I'll take it. But listen, I'll take it only because I can instruct you, run up the score until you get to that 30. So
okay. Yeah, I already, because like the first week we were winning by 30 or whatever, and the other team quit. And
see, now don't let them do
I
that.
know, and I'm like, this time, I'm like, I'm not doing it this time. We're gonna just run up the score. Even Cohen was like, Dad, if we're winning like by a lot, which we probably will be because they suck. This is his words. Please don't let us quit. And I said, oh, we're not quitting this time. So or not ending the game early. So we're gonna win.
Keep throwing.
It'll be like we'll be up 30 and we'll be running play actions. That's the idea.
Get to the spread. That's what it's all about. And that's what these coaches need to realize. You're not coaching to win. You're coaching for the spread. So get to the spread.
It's the funniest thing when you watch, because like my family and stuff, videos of games and stuff, or videos like plays and stuff. So when you watch them back, dude, you want to talk about 5 kids biting on a play action. Every time you don't even have to, like, half the time the running back, like, I'll be like, hey, pretend, remember, like, Cohen will stick the ball out and they'll just run off. They don't even try. But anytime he sticks the ball out, they all assume it's a run. And so all the players just come swarming down, and then Cohen just throws it over him. It's like, this is too easy.
Oh, I love it. That's great.
But I will say this, the last game, the Dolphins were pretty well coached, and they were playing zone the whole time. And made it a little tricky at first. And I think that was why we had trouble. And so I had to start running some different what I did is I started running. I would put 2 wide receivers on the right, and I would have them run left, like run a cross route or something.
Yeah.
And then I would have I had a running back that's real quick, and I would have him come out of the backfield to the right and hit him, and it worked. It was like clockwork. So
they would follow the 2 across. Yeah.
So it worked pretty well.
Yep.
Listen, coach of the year. I know it, so it's fine.
Well, yeah, I was with Ron. Run curls against the zone. Try to get up the seams of it. That's what you got to do.
Well, when they're 5 to 8 years old, it when you tell them a curl, they don't necessarily.
You mean you can't get in the huddle and go run the curls, you idiots? Like, it's a zone.
The huddle. I have to call timeout all the time in the huddle because I'll be like, all right, so you're the X, and I need you to do this. We're like, which way do I go? And I'll tell them, and then we'll get to the line. I'll be like, say it's a play action, and he'll be like, so, and then one kid will be like, so are we running it or passing it? I'm like, just run the fucking play. I guess, it's like, you're not supposed to tell them what we're doing. It's just, So, listen, I had to get a little stern a few times, but that's what a good coach does. So
hit him. That's what I do.
All right, guys. All right. I expect to see you there at the Super Bowl.
If I can hit one of them, I'll go.
I'll bring you in at the assistant. It's like, who's this guy? This is the assistant coach. Don't talk to him. He'll tell you what to do.
If you want your friend, talk to Jared. If you want to get hit, come over to me.
Haltern's yelling on the sideline, curls!
Motherfuckers! Can you imagine what's out there?
I don't know what that means.
Oh my God. That would be so much fun.
Well, it might be the last year we play, but it'll be fun. So
I would love to go do it once.
It would be. I should show up one game like wearing like a suit or something, like a real just real professional attire.
Right.
All right, guys. That's a wrap. Stay tuned for the Magic Mike Show. I'm Jared Welch. He's Aaron Halterman. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Blinkers Off. Join our horse racing community at racingdudes.com and follow us on Twitter at racing_dudes. Want to make money betting horses? Bet with the Racing Dudes.